Shalom. Donnie is on his way. We were both running late. I actually have to go and grab my tea right now. I will be right back. I was trying to figure out where we should start. Last time we started at the Mishnah and went down to the two dots. No, we started on Gimel Amud Aleph, I think. Base Amud base. Esrim Atik is arrow to Chavelot. I'm going to go grab my tea. Talmud time. Yes, Talmud time. Talmud Torah time. Okay, I'm going to start at the Gemara on top of Beit Amud Bet, and we'll see when Donnie gets here. Atu gazelot v'havelot ladine mamnot ninhu. Right, so that's why the Mishnah starts by saying dine mamnot b'shlosha gazelot v'havelot b'shlosha. Donnie is connecting, but his device is not connected. What are we going to do? And T and Talmud. L'chaim. Should I be good and say a bracha? Can I say a bracha on this? We'll pretend I can say a bracha on this. Why wouldn't I be able to say a bracha on this? I'm trying to think. Donnie's here. I'll say a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol nהיה b'dברו.
Hello, do you hear me?
Now I can. I added you to the screen. Before we start, today is Gimel Tammuz, which is the site of the Rebbe, the seventh Lubavitcher Rebbe, who died 31 years ago today, and he, more than anyone else, is the inspiration for me knowing how to study the Talmud. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And
there's another celebration today in Gimel Tammuz.
What?
There's another celebration on Gimel Tammuz today.
What is the other celebration on Gimel Tammuz?
RJ's here.
That is Badai. Yeah. Where did you want to start?
Can we start with the new Gemara? I feel like we're ready to roll the next Gemara.
You want to go to the next Gemara?
I feel pretty good about what we've done so far.
I do not feel good about the last. We rushed to the two lines last time.
We can start from the back. Let's do it.
Where do you want to start?
I mean, this whole Gemara is one Gemara, so you kind of have to go through the whole thing outside.
That's the hard thing. It's like to get pshat in that entire Gemara. It's a huge shtickle Gemara.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to keep on going, don't you?
No, I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go through it. To be honest, I actually reviewed it over Shabbos. I did a round of it.
You reviewed it over Shabbos. Now I feel like a stomach guy. Okay, let's start with the Gemara at the beginning of the Gemara. Base on what base?
Go
Ata
for it.
gazelot v'chavelot lav dine mamanot ninhu. So it's asking why is it this double lashon? Amar Rabbi Abahu mahen katani. Mahen dine mamanot gazelot v'chavelot. Aval hodaot v'halvaot lo. They're not included. It's stricha. De'i tana dine mamanot hava amina de'afilu hodaot v'halvaot. Right? I would have thought they were included. Tana gazelot v'chavelot. Ve'i tana gazelot v'chavelot. So it should have just said gazelot v'chavelot. But if it had done that, v'lo katani dine mamanot hava amina hu hadin afilu hodalot v'halvaot. V'hai the katani gazelot v'chavelot. Mishum de'ikar shlosha dechtivi b'gazelot v'chavelot. Ktivi. Gazelot, Dechtiv, Nikra, Baal, Habayit, El.
RJ's asking for screen view.
What?
Are you able to accommodate RJ's request?
That what?
He wants the Gemara on the screen.
Ooh.
Or should we just ask him to rip out a Gemara somehow?
First off, you could rip off. You could get out a Gemara, but let's at least show people where they can find the Gemara if they would like. So this is Safaria. Safaria is a beautiful website which is which has been contributed to by many people. And if you click on Talmud, they have both the Babylonian and the Jerusalem Talmud, but most people, so we're in the Babylonian Talmud. And if you go down to Seder Nezikin, right, Sanhedrin is right there. And we are actually at the beginning of the first part of the Gemara. The Gemara is a commentary on the Mishnah. So it tells you the Mishnah first, and then it tells you the Gemara discussion of it. And we're starting where the Gemara starts, right? So here it says Gemara, right? Where the Gemara starts. So the Safaria pagination, which frankly I think is going to become standard, is 2b3. So you're looking at Sanhedrin 2b.3, and here it is. And we're starting from the Gemara here. I'm not going to be able to keep up both this and the thing, but here is the link, and anybody who would like, anybody who would like to see can click on the link and they can try to follow along. But I'm trying to go fast so that I don't bore Donnie to death.
No.
Okay. So where were we? We were the Ikar Shlosha Dechtiv B'Gazelot V'Chavelot Ktivi. Gazelot Ktiv V'Nikra Baal Habayit El HaElohim. Right? It says in the Bible that about Gazelot, it says that you should go to the judges / gods. Right? Chavelot Ma Li Chavel Begufo Ma Li Chavel B'Mamono. And since Chavelot is so close to, you're silly, is so close to Gazelot, if you were paying attention, you would realize it's Torah. Since you're not paying attention, you don't get that it's Torah. Okay. Gazelot v'chavelot, aval hodaot v'halvaot lo. Right? So it's not. But those are mamanot, right? So we would also have ulamai ilema de lobeina and shlosh.
So that's why. So tanamai and dini mamanot. All right, that's why it says.
That's why it has to say dine mamanot. And if it had just said dine gazelot v'chavelot, I would have thought the reason it specifies those two, as opposed to simply saying dine mamanot, is because those two are what are talked about specifically, expressly in the Torah.
Right. Yeah.
By people who, yeah, it's like, I knew, because this is the internet, we would end up with dopes like that. But what do you do? It is the internet. Okay. Vilamai. Ilema the lobain and so why is it making this? So okay, we established it's telling us that it's telling us that there's a distinction between hodot v'alvaot and gezelot v'havelot, but why, right? Ulamai ilema the lobain and shlosha v'hamar Rabbi Abahu shneim shadanu dine mamanot. Divrei hakol ein dinehem din, right? Which is kind of strange, because later on we say that the maskana of the Gemara is actually that you only need one,
according to one cheetah.
Not according to
plug at the end, yeah. So,
but he says divrei hakol ein dinehem din. The shita
his opinion is according to
that everyone agrees with him.
It's interesting, yeah. I don't know.
Divrei hakol, and there's this huge Tosfot here. Divrei hakol.
Right, because that's exactly how it starts off, right? Look at the first verses. Diravo adiravo parech. Shmuel v'shar Amorai savri dineim din, because Shmuel and other Amoram do think it is a din. Im tomar hechik amar divrei hakol. How could you say divrei hakol? Ha'ika brisa. I have no idea what that's like. A whole nother. It seems to be asking. It's. I don't know if it's exact. I don't want to read it too fast and assume I understand his question, but it sounds like he is latching onto your point.
Yeah.
It looks like it. I don't want to judge it too quickly without really digging into it.
Yeah, and that's a huge Tosfot. Okay, we're not doing huge Tosfots apparently. Okay. Weiter. Where were we? Shem da dineim divrei hakol ein dineim din. Ela dala bainan hamumchen. Right? So the difference is whether or not you need all three of them to be mumchen.
So now at this point, we finished. We concluded the Gemara essentially, right?
We concluded the discussion of the Mishnah.
Now we understand the Mishnah, right?
We understand the Mishnah, that there's the Mishnah is said the way it is said, in order to distinguish between gezelot v'chavelot and hodaot v'alvaot.
And one needs.
Now the question becomes, why the distinction? What's the distinction?
Sure, but that or how we actually came to it. But now, meaning technically, the Gemara can end right now. We reached a point where we agree that gezelos v'chavelos need 3 mumchim and hadas v'avlos do not.
No. We've agreed that the Mishnah should be saying dine mamanot b'shlosha gezelot v'chavelot b'shlosha. Why? Because there is a difference between gezelot v'chavelot and hodot v'halvaot. But the question becomes, okay, what is this difference? Why the difference? Like, fine, you that's what the Mishnah came to teach. But what is it teaching?
Right now we've reached a place, though. My point is, right now we've reached a place where every step of the Gemara, right, you get to a place of like a safe. You're in a question. You're in an unsafe ground, let's call it, you're in a state where you don't know what the answer is, and then you get to a place
and taria. So there was a shackle. There's been a taria. Yeah.
Right. So we have an answer now. We can if we would close the book now, we'd have a way to read the Mishnah. Is my point. Right.
We would be able to read the Mishnah. Right. But
now the Gemara is going to keep questioning. Now the Gemara is going to say, well, how did you get here? Like my Kasavar is now going to question basically our entire logic here. But right now we we've come to a conclusion at this moment. That's all I'm
We've
pointing out.
come to a conclusion about what these words mean. Yes. Dine mamonot b'shlosha, what you call it. Right.
And I actually, it's funny that RG just posted this. That's what I'm sort of trying to do right now.
Yeah.
Is I'm trying to highlight like at each point of where the Gemara sort of stands.
Right. So let me try saying it outside.
Sure.
Okay. So the Mishnah starts. It says monetary damages with 3 judges, and then it says theft and loans are theft and torts, theft and injuries are with 3 judges. So the Gemara asks, what are monetary damage, are thefts and injuries not included in monetary damages? Why is it mentioning them separately? And I forget who the Tana is. Who? Well, it's I guess it's a Amora. Amora Ravabahu. Fine. Ravabahu says it's coming to teach us that we exclude admissions and loans from being included in needing 3, and it's necessary to say it the way it says it, because if it had just said damages, I would have thought all 4 are included. If it had just said thefts and injuries, I would have thought that the other 2 aren't being mentioned because they're the ones that they're not. When the Bible speaks about needing judges, it speaks explicitly about thefts, and I would understand that injuries would be included because whether I steal somebody's material wealth or I injure them, it's the same. But I would have I would have thought it also extends to admissions and the and loans.
Yeah.
Is that where we are right now?
Yeah.
That's where we are right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one more step is, but then you have a different problem, because then if you're going to say that we don't need 3 judges, but Rabbi Avo says 2 people that judge a case is not considered a good court case. So it sticks puts a hole into that into the logic that we just stated, because now we're left with saying dini mamanos b'shlosha. Now we're left with hados of laws not needing 3, because if you're going to say that gazelos and chavelos are just describing dini mamanos, then what you're essentially, if loan disputes don't fall into this category, so then you're saying it's okay to have 2, but we know this from this Mishnah from Ravo, or from this Maimer from Ravo, who says that 2 people are not considered a good case. So that would be the last step.
Well, that's already the next bit of Gemara. It ends v'alvat lo. Ulamai, then that starts a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It's another thing. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So here we're okay. So yeah.
But then it answers it very quickly. It just doesn't need mumchim, right? So it answers. It's a question, then a quick answer that solves it.
I don't think it's so quickly, because I think the rest of the whole thing.
Got it. Okay, so I see how you're breaking it up. It makes sense.
Yeah. So before, I mean, I thought that was your point. You're like, until we get to Lamai, right?
I get it.
We're at a platform. We've gotten to level 1.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So that part of the Gemara we have down. Next part of the Ulamai. Ilema the lobain and shlosha. So what is this whole distinction that is being made? If you're going to tell me that we don't need 3 judges for hodat v'halvaot, v'ha'amar Rabbi Abahu. So and he's the one who at the very beginning, so he's the one who said that there's a distinction. But he's also the one who says everyone agrees with him that that you still need 3,
Right.
even by hodat v'halvaot. So what is Rabbi Abahu saying here, right?
Yeah.
Rabbi Abahu, Shnaim shadanu dinei mamonot l'divrei hakol ein dinehem din. Right? So he also is of the belief that the Mishnah itself, right? Even if we were to say that he maybe personally believes that you do need 3, but he's explaining the Mishnah and he believes that the Mishnah, no, he believes everyone agrees with him that you need 3. Ela delo ba'inan mumchem. Right? You need 3, but they don't have to be all 3 of them experts the way you need by gezelot v'chavelot. My kasavar. So now we're going to ask, okay, so what's this whole thing that you're making a distinction between mumchem and lo mumchem and hedyot, right? Between experts and commoners. My kasavar. Right? What was he thinking? Right? So let's say that he was of the opinion that in this whole matter, there's so much the Bible going back and forth, right? With Eruv Parshiot, we have to learn one law for the other, so it's very confusing. Right? Katuv kan liboy nami mumchem. So Eruv Parshiot is by Hodat v'Halvaot?
No, Erev Parshios. It's said by. I think it's a pasuk in Shemos. It talks about by Shomer Chinam by Modo Mixas, and we apply a lot of the laws we see there. We apply it to other instances of the laws of damages.
Oh, right. So it's Gezelot v'Chavelot which require mumchem because they are so. Yeah, they're learned out in the Bible itself by
Correct. So on a totally different topic, we take a lot of things from things of Shomer Chinam.
Right.
So if you believe that we should be, is transposing a word here? Like if you should take the laws from one to the next, then you should definitely feel like you should understand that we need to have 3 Eidim who are Mumchim, right? Meaning, in other words, here we're getting to the background of what is the
3
cause
Dayanim who are
needing Dayanim, right? Where do we even know that from? That'd probably be a better way to look at this piece of the Gemara. Like, how do we even know that to start?
Yeah. RJ says, on a real note, the point of 3 versus less is important. How many points need to be considered, and from how many perspectives, Verveki might say.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Having one expert versus
right, but in the end there is someone who says 1 is enough, which is interesting.
Which the halacha is ultimately that one is sufficient.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, but we end up with the maskana that such a person is it's a chatzuf. It's a chutzpah to sit and judge by yourself. Tell that to Verveki. He is kind of chutzpahdik, I have to say. He is kind of chutzpahdik. Okay.
We met him together, Jacob.
What?
We met him together, if you remember.
We did. The funny thing is, he has, so dare I say this, he has what in Chassidus is called shiflut.
He is. For sure.
He is. So a shafel is somebody who very much holds himself low, but that's not considered. It's obviously better than gaiva, right? It's better than being some proud fool.
No,
Right?
I don't. No, I don't. I thought you mean when you say shiftless. I thought you meant like he's a humble man. You mean like in a.
So this is what Hasidus makes a distinction about.
No, I think
It's
he's very
Gimel
humble.
Tammuz. Let's learn some Hasidus. So Hasidus makes a difference between anava and shiftless, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's perfect. Did we just read Korach, or are we just about to read Korach?
Korach? We just read it.
Yeah, it's perfect, right? So what's the difference between shiftless and anava, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was an anav, right? He wasn't shafel. Moshe Rabbeinu, why? Because when Korach comes, and what was Korach's taina? Korach was saying, all the people are holy.
Right.
Who made you a king over us, etc., 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 right? And what was Moshe Rabbeinu's answer?
I don't remember.
No. Aren't you a Levi?
I am a Levi.
Says Rav Lachem b'nei Levi. Says no, you're going too far.
Right.
He, and that was his anava. That was his being humble. Is recognizing I'm better than these people. I am the one who is actually right. So in Chassidus, there's fine. It's all shiftless is already a madrega, right? But it's lacking something, and the perfect example is why do the sages say that that the Torah was given on Mount Sinai?
Right.
It was smallest
mountain.
It was the smallest mountain. So if you're looking for the smallest mountain, give it in a valley. Why do you need a mountain? Give it in a plain. Why do you need a mountain? Yeah. Because first it has to be a mountain, but then it can be the smallest of mountains.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Verstehst? Okay. You actually speak Yiddish, don't you?
No, I don't. You always confuse this. I do not. No.
How did you learn at these prestigious yeshivas? Aren't the top shiurim given in Yiddish?
No, that's like in like the Mir and Brisk, like a top shiur in the Mir, and like the most famous one at least, and like all the shiurim in Brisk, like Brisker yeshivas, they speak Yiddish, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
But that's like the next level of orthodoxy, let's call it. I never made the cut. Thank God.
Okay. So where were we? We were talking about
parshas, yeah.
Liboy namin mumchem.
Right.
Then you should also require by hodaot v'alvaot mumchem. The kesavar ein erev parshiot katuv kan shlosha lamali. So if it's not so confusing, if there aren't all these things, then why? So either you need mumchem or you don't need mumchem. Why? By these you need mumchem and by those you don't.
Right.
La'olam kesavar erev parshiot. Now there's obviously erev parshiot here. Katuv kan.
Yeah.
Uvdin hu the liboy nami mumchem. And it would make sense that we would also require experts. The labainan mumchem, and the actual halacha is we don't require mumchem. Mishum the Rabbi Chanina, right? We have because of what Rabbi Chanina says. The Amar Rabbi Chanina Divrei Torah, echad dinei mamonot, ve'echad dinei nafashot, b'drisha u'chakira. Right? So he says that you need to have a nice back and forth of the witnesses and the matters for whether your capital punishment or your monetary matters. It has to be a full beit din, right? Shneimar mishpat echad yeh lachem, right? Like it says in the Torah, there should be one law. So he applies that also. I mean, the pshat there is that a ger toshav should have the same laws, that he should be treated fairly, right? But there he says he's understanding that to include that even by monetary matters you need a real beit din, right? Umatam amru dine mamonot lo ba'inan drisha v'hakira kedei shelo tin'ol delet bifnei lavin. Right? Why is it that monetary matters we don't take as seriously as capital? Because we want to make sure that people give loans. Eila ma'ata ta'u lo yishalmu. Right? This is where I got lost last time. Right?
So Elamat Tolo Yishalmu.
Yeah.
So now what's going to happen is people are going to make mistakes and they're not going to pay. Right?
That when the judges make mistakes in their ruling, they are not going to be liable for those mistakes.
Right. So let's see Rashi. Elamat To Hedyotos bedine mamonus lo yishalmu. The hedyotos with dine mamonus they're not going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
The Kavan because since they're doing this with the permission from the Rabbanan, right? The Rabbanan are sanctioning this. Havale kemumchem, so they're like mumchem. V'chol hamumchem lebezdin, anyone who's mumchem lebezdin im ta'apater, they're pater from paying. Kedal klama bechdini mamanas. Hashe'enu mumcha, but if you are not a mumcha, then you are chayiv.
Yeah, this is the place where I thought we might need to just skip further and start learning that Gemara already.
Hold on a second. Interesting. If you look at Tosos, El Miata, Tola Ishamu.
Yeah.
There, Farish Bekontras, so he's commenting on Rashi.
Yeah.
Given the Rishus Ka'avdi, have a She'ena Mumcha, Kemumcha. So Rashi's saying, this is like, Rashi's saying that since they're doing it with the Rishus of the rabbis, then She'ena Mumcha, Kemumcha. If you're not a Mumcha, it becomes like a Mumcha.
And you don't have to pay. Right. Which is Rashi. It seems like Rashi and Tosfot are disagreeing on what the Gemara says about Tal Velo Yishalmo on page 33a.
Right, but that's helpful though. There's if we want we can go further into Tosfos again. He's going to actually question that. He's going to say Rashi Pshat doesn't make sense here, which is probably why we're not. Maybe one of the reasons why we're not understanding it. He goes on to say, "Veloshin kol shekain shata Noel ein misyashe." That if what Rashi is saying is correct, the way I'm reading it, then the lashon of the Gemara says of kol shekain it doesn't work.
Yeah. Hava lemeimar imken. Hava lemeimar imken.
Hava lemeimar.
Not kol shekain, but imken.
So let's read it imken and see if that makes sense. I'm curious. If we would go back up to the Gemara for a second before going further into Tosfos and reading what the Gemara says here. El mi'ata tolo yishalmu. Im Kain Atanol. Oh, Im Kain Atanol Dallas with Labno. That's interesting. So you basically said this last week. I was trying to like kind of fudge the Gemara, and you basically said it doesn't make any sense. And I guess this is what your point is. Is exactly what Tosas is saying, right?
Baruch shekivanti.
Im Kain Atanol Ela Mashma Milashin Kol Shekain Demi Koach Nilas Deles Have Parach. That because of the strength, I guess, of this law of closing the door between for loans, we're asking a question of Hache Parishon. This is how you should read it. Kevan dechayish lin ilas dela. Since we're suspect of closing the door, Havilan lememar to lo yishalmu. To lo yishalmu. Ima chayevas lo l'shalim lo yisratzu lismatze bedin. Oh Lord.
I honestly think we need to go learn the Gemara on page 33.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, we're intending on learning the entire Gemara, the entire whatchamacallit, Masechta. So at least it's not a different Gemara. What?
I don't know if it's actually going to help us. We could try.
You don't think it's going to help?
The problem is, if we start another Gemara, it just slams us. It's going to be like you have to learn the entire. I don't even know.
Okay, but we're intending on finishing the entire Masechta, right?
We have to, otherwise we can't make a siyum, and then we can't have food.
We're going to have to learn Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph anyway, right?
Okay.
So if it helps us learn base, are we on Gimel Lamed Aleph? Right. If it helps us understand Gimel, so it's I think it's better that we do it now as opposed to later, and then later we'll be like, oh, if I had known this, we would have understood Gimel better. No?
Yeah.
My biggest question is now we have to see what the Mishnah is that Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph is going on.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, this is a long Mishnah. Okay. The Mishnah, it's a long Mishnah on Lamed Beis Amud Aleph.
Well, we probably can just read the beginning because it's a commentary on the beginning of it. So you can probably just read the beginning of it.
The beginning of what?
Of Lamed Beis, of the Mishnah.
I mean, probably, but we have to read the. I mean, you have to read the Mishnah.
Okay.
Echad dine mamonot ve'echad dine nafashot b'drisha chakira. See? No, I was right. Shneimar mishpat echad yeh lachem ma bein dine mamonot ledine nafashot dine mamonot b'shlosha v'dine nafashot be'esrim b'shlosha. Dine mamonot potchen bein l'schut bein l'chova dine nafashot potchen l'schut ve'ein potchen l'chova.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Because by Dine Nafashot it says Vehitzilu Ha'eda, right? So there's a lot of extra protections, and one of the extra protections is that the first person who gets to speak when you are on Dine Nafashot is the person who says he's not guilty. You always start with not guilty. But by Dine Mamonot, there's two people anyway, so that makes no sense, right? But so with Dine Nafashot, potchen l'schut ve'ein potchen l'chova. You can't. The first person who speaks can't be somebody who believes that the guy is guilty. And it's part of the rule actually that if there's no one if there's no judges who believe that he's innocent, then you can't try him at all. Okay, Dine mamonot matin al pi echad bein l'schut bein l'chova. V'dine nafashot matin al pi echad l'schut v'al pi shnayim l'chova. We discussed this, right? So because it says you should lean towards the good and not the bad. What does that mean? When it's din nafashot that you're going to put somebody to death, you have to have two extra votes.
Right.
A single vote doesn't work.
Right.
Right.
But to be innocent, you just have to have one more.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So 12 to 11 innocent is innocent. 12 for 11 to 11 guilty is still innocent. It has to be 13 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Dine mamano machzirin bein l'schut bein l'chova. Right. That machzirin means you, if I remember correctly, sending out people to ask if anybody has information. Sotrin et Rashi Sotrin et hadin lachar shegar gamar ruhu v'yad'u shetau machzirin et hadvar bein l'schut bein l'chova. Right, you can undo the judgment, right? So dine mamonot machzirin bein l'schut bein l'chova. Dine nefashot machzirin l'schut bein machzirin l'chova. Right. So if once a person's found innocent, then he can't be found guilty, even if they realize they made a mistake. Dine mamonot hakol melamden schut v'chova. Dine nefashot hakol melamden schut ve'ein hakol melamden chova. Right. So if everyone is saying the guy's guilty, you can't have a capital case. Dine mamonot hamelamed chova melamed schut v'hamelamed schut melamed chova. Dine nefashot hamelamed chova melamed schut, aval hamelamed schut ein yachol lachzor v'lamed chova. So if you are of the opinion that, so if one of the judges is of the opinion that the man is innocent, even if he has a good reason to find him guilty, he's not allowed to teach it. Dine mamonot danin beyom v'gomrin belayla. Dine nafashot danin beyom v'gomrin beyom. So you can't keep on going deep into the night on whatchamacallit. And for the Christians in the group, this is actually one of the things about the supposed trial of Jesus that was irregular, that was supposedly done at night. Dine mamonot gomrin bo biyom bein l'schut bein l'chova. Dine nefashot gomrin bo biyom l'schut ubiyom shelacharav l'chova. You have to sleep on it. Lefichach ein danin lo be'erev Shabbat v'lo be'erev Yom Tov. So you can't even do it on the day before. It's funny. I think this might actually be the around here is where one of the Gemaras that mentions Jesus. Dine nefashot matchilin min hatzad. What? Hold on. Where is Be'erev Yom Tov? Dine mamonot hatmeot ve'ataharot. Matchilin min hagadol. Right. Regarding matters of purity and financial matters, the first person to speak is the most senior judge. Dine nafashot matchilin min hatzad. You start from the junior judges. Hakol kasher ladun dine mamonot ve'ein hakol kasher ladun dine nafashot. Anyone can be a judge for monetary matters, but not everyone for capital matters. Eila kahanim levim ve'Israelim hamasiin lekahuna. But people who are not allowed to marry into a priestly family are not allowed to be judges regarding life matters. Okay? Voss,
What happened?
you're being quiet.
No, that was good Mishnah. Thank you.
My pleasure. What is RJ? You're writing so much. What, like, how far back?
You have to go back.
At Donnie, how many seems to be context dependent? Yes, Yaakov, but he's got Hermes, so that's two people sort of. Yeah, that's what worries me. Is a Verveki the Shlamazel here? Lol, it's Talmud. Korach Twitter fights. Yes, I'm waiting for Hebrew Aramaic. It already exists. You know, it's real study when they're shuckling. Of course. Can we do this series, Daf Dani? You well put, Donnie. I don't know what was well put, but good job.
Probably everything I'm saying, if I had to guess.
Probably. It makes sense. One by one and revisiting the point is a possible solution. It was written in an order. Don't overthink it. Nope, there's no order to the Gemara. I hate to tell you that. That's not how the oral law works. Well, not really an order exactly.
There's no order to the written law either.
What?
There's no order to the written law either.
There are some. I think there's a difference, Rashi and Ramban, regarding whether there's some chronological order to the Torah, but yes. Hence, the 1 in 70 is a bit much thing. Not sure what you mean. I think you mean if you can't find anyone who, yeah, if so, the thinking is if 71 people all think that he's guilty, he can't possibly be guilty. Be precise, Jacob. It talks about someone named Yeshu, which was a common name, and several Yeshus got into trouble. Yes, it is possible that the Jesus in the Gemara is not the Jesus that the Christians generally mean when they say the word Jesus. But it's not talking about Mike Gardner either. Okay, so Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph.
It's good.
So now we have to find which two dots refer to the Ital Lo Yishalmo. Zika et Chachayav, Tima et Tatar.
The top. You can start from the top for a minute.
It's at the top?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Dine Mamanot Machzirin. With Dine Mamanot, you can undo the law. Yeah.
In American terms, yeah.
You want to read? I've been reading a lot.
Sure. Veraminu. Din Danasadin Zika Esachayev. So Veraminu also, I'm pretty sure, we'll see if I'm right. It means like there's a direct contradiction. So what I should be reading right now should directly contradict that Mishnah.
Yeah.
Veraminu. Danasadin Zika Esachayev Chayev Esazakai Tima Esatar Tir Esatame Masha Asa Asoy Vishal Mibeso. So when a judge does a case and he makes the innocent obligated, or the obligated innocent, or he's mitame the tar, or he's tar the top, the what's really contaminated. What is done is done. V'yishalom mibeso. That means, I guess, he pays from his
out of his pocket.
Okay, and he has to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the judge
individually, you can't appeal it. You can't change it at that point.
Yeah. If Reuven and Shimon come, and the Beit Din says Reuven has to pay Shimon.
Yeah.
Right. And then they figure out, oh no, they made a mistake. Right. You can't go back to Reuven and you can't go back to Shimon and say, give Reuven his money back. You have to pay.
Right.
So Shimon gets to keep the money, but the judges have to pay Reuven.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amar Rav Yosef lo kasha. It's not a question. This contradiction. Kan b'mumcha, kan b'she'ena mumcha. That one case is with a mumcha, one's with it's not a mumcha. Uve mumcha machzirin. When it's a mumcha, you can change the case.
Yeah. You can get the money from Reuven.
Correct. V'akatani. What's that expression? V'hakatani. I thought it would be like
V'hakatani im haya mumcha lebeit din patur milo shalem. So it's
I'm used to like it's saying like Kamash Malan, like V'hakatani is
no. Kamash Malan means it's coming to teach us. V'hakatani means hold on here. We have something that says otherwise.
Oh. If someone's a mumcha to bezdin, then you're patur from paying.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a second. Ooh, hold on. Oh, I didn't read it right. So let's go back. Amar Yosef, lo kasha kam b'mumcha, kam b'she'ena mumcha. So says Rashi, b'mumcha yesh bo koach lachzor. V'lo matzi lamemar le'bal din ana ki tama kama didach abdina. Avo b'she'ena mumcha, but when it's not a mumcha, matzi amar le mi yomar the time of basra didach ikr dilma kama ikra uvahai hudatas. Oh. Wait a second. Yesh bo koach lachzor. V'lo matzi lememar le'bal din ana.
I can't translate the Rashi.
So yesh bo koach lachzor. They're able to, when it's a mumcha, they're able to actually reverse the case. V'lo matzi lememar le'bal din ana. And you can't say to him, I am
one of the litigants.
Kitama kama didach abdina.
Or no, that I am one of the that I understand judgment well.
I'm able to. I think I understand the next part. When it's not a mumcha, matzi amar le mi yomar the time of basu dach iker don't kama iker. This part I understand. For if you're not a mumcha and you come back and say I'm making an appeal, right, or I'm changing my verdict, the person says back to you, you're in as much as your first sock is like kind of weak since you're not a mumcha, so your second your second decision should also not be worth anything.
Oh, so Reuven's going to say to somebody who's not an expert, right? He's gonna say buzz off. Like now you think the other way, like you don't know what you're doing.
Either way, it doesn't make it. I guess that's what it's saying. Because it's saying Dilma time at the time of Basra Didach Iker. Who says your second thought here is better? Dilma Kama Iker. Maybe your first thought is better. Uvahai Hudata is Pater Milashalim. All Masha Asa Asa. Umiu Pater Milashalim to cave the Mumchahu Mazla Bisha Tahu Gavra Garm Le Limtai. Oh my God.
He would be ashamed to say that this guy made a mistake. So basically, they're saying that if you have an expert judge, then Reuven would have too much shame to disagree when the judge says, no, I was wrong.
Right.
But when you have an non-expert, Reuven's going to tell him to buzz off, and Shimon has to collect from the judge personally.
Right.
I don't know how to read it in the words, but I think I understand what he's saying. Anna.
I think maybe you could read it as saying Yesh Makach Lachzor. You could actually reverse the judgment because V'lo Matzi Lamei Marlei Bal Din Ana Kitama Kama Didach Abdina. Like I think it's saying that the person can't say I'm standing with your first
Anna, yeah, right. So here. Yesh bo koach lachzor v'lo matzi lememar le Baal Hadin, so that Baal Hadin would that one of the litigants would not have the chutzpah to say to him, Ana kitayma kama didach avdina. I did according to your the first opinion you gave me.
Right.
Aval b'she'eno mumcha matze amar le. It's possible that he might say, right? Mi yamar the time of batra didach. Mi yamar the time of batra didach iker, right? That he would accept. Oh, you're the expert, so I'm going to go ahead and expect what you say. Dilma kama iker ubahai hu the taita. Dilma kama iker.
Right. Dilma kama iker. Maybe your first reasoning was actually correct.
Mi yamar tama batra didach iker. Dilma kama iker. Oh, maybe it's so he would understand. Oh, I understand that you made a mistake because it is such a complicated matter. But if it's something simple, right, that and non-mumcha, right, he's not going to understand a mistake.
Say that again.
So Ruvain goes to a Beit Din, right? And there are people who are not experts judging. And then they come and they say, you made a we made a mistake. No, it's actually the other way. You would, if they're not experts, Ruvain might say to them, no, I think it's like you said at first. I don't think like it is. But if it's somebody who is an expert, right? He will say to himself, well, no, he will say to you, I understand. Actually, it is like you say now. And I understand that it was that there you had a svara, you had this reasoning in the beginning, but it was something that was understandably mistaken.
That's the case where it's not a mumcha?
No, that's by a case when it is a mumcha. By a mumcha, he would say, now I understand how you...
Correct. Now I understand because the person's reliable, right? So you can make a mistake. Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Correct. But then Rashi says also, by the way, this line about Mazla Bisha. So I'm looking at the art scroll here for that, and it says Rashi here explains that the expert is exempt from making restitution for his error because this rare occurrence of error on his part must be attributed to the loser's ill luck rather than to any fault on the part of the expert. How bizarre is that?
Mazla Bisha. Okay.
That's so bizarre. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense in a way. Because it's trying to show that this guy doesn't make mistakes. He's a real mumcha. Like he doesn't. In that sense, it makes sense for him not to pay because he doesn't really. This is not something that's usual for it to happen.
So he would think, it's something like, even the fact that this great judge, honestly, when it comes to poskim, you see this, right? So people will go to people who like rabbis that they know well, and they will say, he made a mistake. But when it comes to something that like somebody asked for Avadia Yosef, they say even if it's a mistake, ultimately there's a reason why that was the mistake. Mina Shamayim, who I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it too.
This is what I tell all people that I screw over. I say it's your Mazel Bisha. That's what I tell them.
Yeah. That's what you tell them because you're Gadol Hadar. Is that
exactly?
It? Somebody, I know RJ has your picture up on his wall.
He should. He should.
He should. He should. Okay, let's get back into the Gemara. Well, how long have we been going? Almost an hour. שעשה עשוי וישלם מביתו. אמר רב יוסף, לא קשה. כאן במומחה, כאן בשאינו מומחה.
Right, and then the Gemara asks, "Mumcha mazir," and you're saying a mumcha has to return the money.
No. Machzirin means you overturn the.
Sorry, you overturn the case. You overturn the case. If you're mumcha lebezdin, you're putter from paying. But if you're putter from that doesn't. If you're putter from paying, that's an indication that
you can't.
You're not able to reverse it.
Yeah.
Right. So Amar Nachman kan sheyesh gadol himena b'chachma of a minion. Kan she'ein gadol himena b'chachma of a minion. So is this like saying it goes to a higher court?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, I mean, there are people who will take to, there are some appellate betei dinim that do exist.
So this Mishnah here is talking about a situation where they go to a
larger Beit Din
first council, right?
And it has to be both larger and it has to be it has to be more wiser.
Right, but this other Mishnah that we're quoting from Bechoros, where there is nobody who's present from the. Oh, so this changes just the whole understanding of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is talking about something totally different, about actually going to the Supreme Court, so to speak, right?
Yeah, apparently.
So that's a whole different story. When you're not elevating it, when you're not escalating,
it's not the same judges accepting that they made a mistake. Correct. You're going to a different court, a larger court, and it's overruling the thing.
Right, but in a case where you can't do that, a mumcha is not going to be putter from paying. He's going to have. Wait, no, sorry. So if you go to a high court, then you can get the case reversed. If you don't get it reversed and you're just stuck with the judgment, the mumcha, let's just say it's clear that he did a bad ruling, he's going to be putter from paying.
I mean, if it's hedyot, right? Then it's easy to go and find 5 mumchem and say it's gadol mimenu b'chochma u'minyan. But if you had a mumcha, right? So you had Rav Avadia Yosef on your initial Beit Din of 3. How are you going to go find? How are you going to have a Beit Din that's going to overrule it? Right. So it's only by hedyot that you can, in fact, have gadol mimenu. By mumcha, you can't have gadol mimenu.
We're not talking about Hedyot here, though.
Yeah, we are. Kan mumcha, kan eino mumcha. Hedyot is eino mumcha.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So but by Eino Mumcha, you do have to pay. Sorry, yes.
Because it's possible to have machzir noto. Gadol himenu yain kan she'ein gadol himenu
Also, if Yishalem Beso. Oh, okay. So Eino Mumcha is where you have to pay.
Where it's possible, this puts a whole other light to it. Like, you would want to go to a Beit Din with Hedyot because in that manner, there's a possibility of appeal.
Right.
But if you go to a Beit Din of Mumchim, then there's no possibility of appeal.
Unless you go to a higher court.
But how could there be a higher court? It has to be gadol mimenu beminyan u v'chochma. Right. How do you establish? And I think that's what it says. Kan sheyesh gadol himenu b'chochma u'v'minyan, kan she'ein gadol himenu b'chochma u'v'minyan. Right.
Yeah.
Let's say I have 3 dayanim. I'm gonna go say no. These other 3 dayanim are gadol himenu b'chochma. How are you gonna do that? But if it's a hedyot, obviously, I have a Beis Din of mumcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Yaakov was right again. We needed to learn this Gemara.
He never fails us.
What?
He never fails us.
Yaakov has never failed us. Yaakov is perfect. Ish tam, Yoshev Ohalim.
Exactly.
Yeah. Rav Sheshet Amar Khan Shata B'Dvar Mishnah.
I don't know if we have to go any further than that. I don't think it. Let's see. What's next then? Amar Shei. Or she gives a different answer. I don't know if we have to go that far.
Yeah, I think we got enough. Yeah, we don't have to do the entire thing. Okay.
So we'll apply this next week. We'll make the connection.
Pater Milashalem is almost a third of the way down.
We can't turn off his red chezi when chezi joins.
Pater Milashalem is in the first wide line right before the under the Tosfot.
Oh, you're saying it does keep going. Okay, so maybe we should have to just start this. Let's just start next week with this Gemara, and we'll go through the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll do this Gemara. Okay. Next week we will be on 33a. Look how fast we've gone.
I know, it's crazy.
Daf Yomi, we're already on the second parak.
It's crazy. We're gonna catch up though. They're in Avodah Zarah in Daf Yomi right now. We're gonna catch up to them.
I would usually want to drop a link, but I actually have lots of stuff I have to do.
Same.
So unfortunately, unless Chezi wants to come on and do something, we'll need be convinced about putting up a picture. Neo-Misnagdism shall be the Juber mention. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. I think we're done for the day. Thank you.
Have a good week. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.